Do you want to save money and accelerate your private pilot training? Then stay tuned to the end of the video because I have an amazing hack that is sure to change how you approach flight training. Welcome back to Turning Final. I'm John, a private pilot actively working towards becoming a certified flight instructor. In today's video, I'm going to cover going from zero flight time to private pilot, and we're going to do it on the cheap. Items that we'll be covering in today's video include: what do you need to become a private pilot? What are the private pilot minimum requirements? Essential tools and materials every student pilot should have. Private pilot license cost breakdown. And finally, my top secret hack for saving both time and money during your training. So I have one question. Are you ready to make your pilot dreams a reality? Let's dive in. So what do you need to become a private pilot? Well, you need to be at least 16 years old, or 14 years old if you plan to pilot balloons or gliders. You must also have the ability to read, speak, and write in the English language. Simple enough, right? Keep in mind, when it comes time for your solo flight, you will need to have your student pilot certificate and medical completed. However, I would encourage you to visit a local aviation medical examiner, or AME, prior to fully committing to flight training. As I alluded to in my previous video, though disappointing, it's better to know of any medical related hurdles prior to investing a large amount of time and money into training. There are multiple classes of medical certificates you can apply for, but in an effort to keep this simple and PPL focused, I'm going to cut right to the chase. If you plan to use your private pilot license as a springboard into a career in aviation like I am, I would go for the first class medical. These are the same medical exams your friendly airline pilots receive. If you only plan to exercise the privileges of private pilot, then a minimum of third class medical will suffice. I would also encourage you to have your FAA PAR written exam done prior to your solo flight as well. More on the PAR written exam later in the video. So what are the private pilot minimum requirements? Student pilots are required to have a minimum of 40 flight hours, 10 of which are solo, 20 hours of dual flight instruction, 3 hours of night flight training, 1 nighttime cross-country training flight over 100 nautical mile distance, 10 nighttime full stop takeoffs and landings, 3 hours of flight training by reference to instruments or simulated IMC, 5 hours of solo cross-country time, 3 solo full stop takeoffs and landings at a towered field, and 1 cross-country flight of 150 nautical miles total distance, and a leg that is at least 50 nautical miles with 3 full stop takeoffs and landings to become eligible to receive your private pilot license certificate under Part 61. Part 141 PPL students only need 35 minimum flight hours, 5 of which are solo, 20 hours of dual flight instruction, 3 hours of cross-country flight and training, 3 hours of night flight training, a nighttime cross-country training flight of over 100 nautical miles distance, 10 nighttime full stop takeoff and landings, 3 hours of flight training by reference to instruments, 1 cross-country flight of 150 nautical miles total distance, and a leg that is at least 50 nautical miles with 3 full stop takeoffs and landings, and 3 solo full stop takeoff and landings at a towered field to be eligible to receive their private pilot certificate under Part 141. So you may be asking yourself, what the heck does Part 61 and Part 141 mean? Luckily, you're watching the Turning Final YouTube channel, and I have covered this in a previous video. Link above. Number 3, essential tools and materials that every student pilot should have. I'm going to keep this relatively brief because you can go down quite the rabbit hole buying supplies and things to improve your piloting skills, when in reality, improving your pilot skills is really seat time. Some of the items that I started with were a flight bag, a middle-of-the-road headset as far as cost is concerned, nothing too expensive, Bluetooth, Bose. Truthfully, you can just use the headsets that are provided by your flight school. In addition to a headset, I would also encourage you to get the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge, or PHAK, the Airplane Flying Handbook, the Jeppesen Test Prep Book for Private Pilot, and lastly, I would encourage you to get your Airman Certification Standards, or the ACS. Great thing about the ACS is that is exactly what you are going to be tested on your practical exam. I would highly encourage you to get that, read through it, and understand the ACS. Some other things that you'll need would be an electronic or a manual flight computer, or E6B. I use an ASA CX3, but I did start with a manual E6B, or a whiz wheel. The last thing I would encourage you to have in your arsenal supplies would be a chair flying binder. This is a huge deal, guys. I cannot stress this enough to you. Having a chair flying binder will help you save time and money so you don't get as rusty. So something like this here gives you all the steps so you can practice these maneuvers in the comfort of your own home for free. A chair flying binder helped me cut my private pilot training down, and I know it'll do the same for you. Number 4, private pilot license cost breakdown. Keep in mind, these figures can vary wildly depending on your geographical location. As I alluded to earlier, I would start with your medical exam. That can typically run you about $100 to $200 on average. Your FAA PAR written exam, on average about $175 to $200. The FAA practical flight exam or check ride is $600 to $1,000, again depending on where you fly and live. The next thing you'll need will be an online ground school. There are a ton of online ground school options from Sporties to Kings. However, I'm a Gold Seal pilot, so I use Gold Seal exclusively for my online ground school. Link in the description. You can expect to pay anywhere between $200 and $900 for your ground school, depending on if you use a CFI or its online counterpart. Your pilot supplies will run you somewhere between $500 and $1,000, depending on what you decide to go with. But again, I would keep it simple and not spend a ton of money on supplies. Becoming a pilot is not a cheap endeavor. The next item you'll want to consider is flight instruction. You can expect to pay somewhere between $40 to $85 per hour on flight instruction, depending on your area. Aircraft rental. Aircraft rental pricing can vary widely depending on what type of aircraft you are renting as well as where you're flying. To keep this simple, expect to pay somewhere between $145 an hour for your garden variety trainers such as Piper Cherokees and 172s, depending on how well equipped they are, of course, and I would say up to $400 plus for the most well-equipped Cirrus and Diamond aircraft. So when you add it all up, based on the national average of roughly 50 to 70 hours of flight time, you would expect to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $16,000 start to finish to achieve your private pilot license. Alright, I know, after seeing that sticker shock, you are itching to hear what my hack is to save money and time getting your private pilot license. You guys ready? Self-study! That's right, it's very, very simple. In the world of aviation, there is so much knowledge and so much information that is thrown at you at all times. In order to keep track of all of it, the only way to stay frosty and stay fresh in your mind is to study. Go over the ACS, go over the PHAC, go over the Airman's Flying Handbook, go over the POH for your airplane. I mean, you really got to dive in and you got to take this seriously. If you decide that you want to put one foot in and one foot out, it's going to take you forever, it's going to cost you a ton of money, and you're not going to be happy with it. If you truly want to be an aviator, you have to commit to being an aviator. That sometimes means sacrificing time with friends and family, or cutting back on eating out and having your coffees on the go. It really boils down to saving money and saving time and being dedicated to your craft. I know that you can do it because I'm doing it. And trust me when I say, if I can do it, I guarantee you can. So now that we've covered what you need to become a private pilot, the FAA PPL minimum requirements between Part 61 and 141, the materials needed and the cost breakdown, the only thing left to do now is take the next step by taking your first discovery flight. I know you'll be hooked. Until next time, guys, fly safe, keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you on the next one.